everybody, welcome back to another Fall Food Friday. My name is Kelly, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. Thanks for stopping by again. Today is our third Fall Food Friday, and for anyone who isn't sure what that is, it is an open collab, and that's being hosted by Fallon over at Moss Family TV. I'm sure most of you watching know who she is, but if you don't, I will link her channel below. And if you've never seen her before, go check out her channel after you watch this video. So this is the third Fall Food Friday for 2021. And just like last week, I'm gonna be sharing a dinner and dessert. So let's go check out what I made. Let's get started on these cookies. These are ooey gooey French vanilla butter cookies. This is a cake mix butter cookie mix. So it's like a little take on the ooey gooey butter cake that everybody loves. And I love it too, but I've never made that. And this is from a box, so it works for me. I found it on the Betty Crocker website, and I'm using a Duncan Hines cake, and I'm using French vanilla. You can use any type of cake you want, but I chose French vanilla. I have a stick of butter. I have some cream cheese, 1 block. I have powdered sugar, an egg, and vanilla. And that's all you need for this recipe. So let's get started. To get started, you're just using 1 block of cream cheese that you've softened. I've had that out for a couple hours. It was pretty good. And also same with the butter that I'm dropping back there. We're gonna mix this all up. You can use your hand mixer, your stand mixer. And after that's all mixed up, you're just gonna add in your vanilla and your egg. Here I am adding in my 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Then I'm gonna add in my egg. We're gonna blend this all together. Then it's time to add the whole box of cake mix and mix that up. The recipe says cook at 375 for 12 to 15 minutes. Mine ended up taking 17 minutes for the first batch, and it took 15 minutes for the second batch. Now I'm adding in the French vanilla cake mix. Like I told you in the beginning, the recipe said you can use anything, and I had a strawberry cake mix and a banana cake mix. I think that would have been really good as well. Also, you could throw in some kind of other extract. You could maybe throw in, almond extract. You could throw in lemon extract. I think anything would be good in these cookies. They turned out really good. At this point, you're going to put this in the fridge for a half hour. I ended up leaving it in for an hour. It's a very sticky dough. So once you make it, put it in the fridge to chill. It's going to be much easier to work with. It's been an hour in the fridge. It says a half hour, but I did an hour. And I'm just going to start making the cookies. I have to do 2 batches because that size of pan, I can't fit 2 at a time in my oven long ways, so I had to do it sideways. So it ended up making 24 cookies. I put 12 on each. It's me, so I'm just eyeballing it. I'm trying to make them all the same size. I'm rolling them up, and I'm going to dip them in my plate of powdered sugar and put them on my parchment paper and then pop them into the oven at 375. While the first batch was in the oven, I made my second batch so I could throw them in right away. The one thing I would recommend to you guys, and I found this because it was my first time making this, when you put that dough in the fridge for the half hour to an hour, maybe split it into 2 bowls, because after I put the first batch in and I was forming the second batch, it got really sticky and gooey again. So the only thing I would do different next time is I would put that dough in the fridge in 2 separate bowls if you have to make 2 separate batches. If you have a cookie sheet that's big enough and you're doing it all at one time, maybe it would be okay. I don't know. That's just what I would do because it got really sticky and it was hard to work with. So now I'm going to get the second batch in the oven and I'm going to show you how these guys came out. I did check these after 12 minutes since the recipe said 12 to 15 minutes. They were nowhere near done. I ended up letting them cook for a total of 17 minutes on the first batch, and then the second batch only took 15. The recipe said the bottom should be kind of brown like that, and it came out really good. The top is still soft and the cookie is still very chewy. So I'm just going to get the first batch on the cooling rack, and I'm just going to do the same when the second comes out. And there you have it. Super easy recipe. Really no big deal to make. You could easily make 2 batches at a time. You could make one, with just the yellow cake or the French vanilla like I did. And if you have another box of cake mix laying around, like a banana or a strawberry like I had, just, mix it up in 2 different bowls and make 2 different batches. Super easy, and these turned out great. Now it's time to see our fall food dinner. Now I'm going to show you my spicy sausage lentil soup or stew, depending on how thick or how thin you want to make it. This is a favorite of mine. I've been making it for a really long time. Here in this bowl, I have a whole 12-ounce bag of lentils, and I have them in boiling water. I rinse them in a colander, clean them off, put them in this bowl with boiling water over them, and it's been sitting there for about an hour. I never soak them overnight. I know some people soak like beans or lentils overnight. I just never have. The boiling water works just fine, and I've been doing this recipe for a long time. So here I have 1 pack of hot Jimmy Dean sausage. I usually use 2, but I couldn't find another one at the store because there's always a shortage on something. We know this now. So I had one hot in my fridge, went to the store to get another one, and all they had was the mild. That's fine. I like the flavor of the Jimmy Dean. For the vegetables, we're going to be using carrots. I've diced up some baby carrots, an onion, and some celery. I've diced it pretty small. I didn't measure it. Again, that's me. I don't measure. I have the vegetable broth. I like using vegetable broth in this. You could use chicken or beef. I think it would be fine. And we're going to do some extra crushed red pepper because I don't have the 2 hot. And I'm going to be doing 3 small cans of diced tomatoes. I normally use 1 big one and 1 small one. I have my big pot out and ready to go, and I've just put a tiny bit of olive oil in there. You don't need much because we're using pork sausage and that has enough fat. And before I get the sausage in there, I'm going to take these lentils, put them back in the colander and rinse them off really good and put them back in the bowl. Now I have my lentils. I've drained them and rinsed them, and those are good to go. This soup is going to take quite a long time. It's going to take about 3 or 4 hours on the stovetop. You can make this in the crock pot. I did it once. It was very good. I just prefer making it on the stovetop and cooking it that way. That's just my preference, but it does come out good in the crock pot. So now we're going to get ready to get our sausage in the pot. My oil has been heating for a minute, so now I'm going to add both of the sausages in there. I'm going to start browning it. That's our first step. When that's done, I'm going to start by adding in the onion. So I'm just going to start breaking this apart. And here you can see I start using my meat masher, which I really like this thing when you're initially using it for hamburger meat or sausage, things like that. But then I always switch to my wooden spoon. I don't know. I feel like everything sticks to that thing. I'm curious what you guys think because I know a lot of people cook with that, but I feel like I'm always picking the food off. So I like to use it in the beginning, and then I go back to my good old wooden spoon. So here I'm mixing this up. I'm crumbling it pretty good. We don't want big chunks. We kind of want it maybe like taco meat, but a little bit bigger, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to keep crumbling this till it's almost brown. Then we're going to throw in our onions. Once the onions are in there, just give it a good stir with the sausage. And now it's time to add a little bit of seasoning. We're not adding much. The sausage has so much flavor, but I'm just putting some black pepper. I'm going to add some salt, just a little bit because, of course, pork sausage is very salty. And now it's time to add the heat. I love spicy. If you've watched my videos, you know this. So I'm adding quite a bit of crushed red pepper. The nice thing about this recipe, it's going to taste just as good if you're not a person who likes heat. You can use mild sausage. You don't even have to use the hot. And of course, you can omit the red pepper. So we're going to get that incorporated. We're going to give that a good stir, and then we'll be moving on to our next step. At this point, the meat is almost cooked all the way through, and that's fine because this is going to take 3 to 4 hours to cook. So as long as it's mostly browned and you have the onions in there for a little bit, it's going to be fine. Now I'm just going to hit it with a little bit more crushed red pepper. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add our carrots and our celery, get that all mixed together. And we're going to let that just, simmer in there for a couple minutes like that before we go on to our next step. I didn't drain any of that fat because I think that pork fat gives it really, really good flavor. So I left that in there. I didn't drain anything. And if you remember, I only started with a little bit of olive oil. So it's not very greasy. It's mostly just that good pork fat, which is really good flavor. So we're getting in our carrots and our celery right now. We're going to give that a good stir, and we're going to let that go for maybe 2-3 minutes. That's about it. And then we'll move on. Now it's time to start adding your liquid. I'm using the whole 32-ounce container of this vegetable broth. I have made this with chicken broth. I'm sure it would be good with beef broth too. So that's the whole 4 cups of that. Then it's time to get in our lentils that we had soaked and drained and rinsed. And then it'll be time to add the tomatoes. Usually I do 1 big can of diced tomatoes and 1 small, but I didn't have a big one, so I decided to see how the 2 looked. And after I put the 2 in, it wasn't enough, so I did end up adding that 3rd can. So it's pretty much the equivalent of 1 big and 1 small. So you just give that a stir so you have your broth in there with your tomatoes, and then it's going to be time to add some water after I add this 3rd can of tomato here, of course. I'm going to start by adding 2 cups of water and giving it a stir, and then I do add 1 additional cup. Now it's time to put a lid on it and get it up to a boil. I have this set on a little bit more than medium, so medium to high heat. And here we are after about 15 minutes. I'm going to give this a stir. I'm going to put the lid back on, but I'm going to have the lid off a little bit this time, and I'm going to take it down to low to medium heat. So I'm putting the lid on, but I'm just leaving a little space there so some of the steam gets out. And now here we are after about another 15 minutes. You can see that the water level went down a little bit. So at this point, now I'm going to add my additional cup of water. And that's going to be the only other liquid I'm adding for the entire cooking time. So I'm going to put this on low heat now, and I'm going to simmer this for 3 to 4 hours. And I'm just going to give it a stir probably every 15-20 minutes or so until it thickens up a little bit and it's ready to serve. So we're going to get a lid on it, and I'll see you back in 3 or 4 hours. So I let this go for the entire 4 hours, and here we are, and it's done. It's looking good. I tasted the carrots and the celery. They're nice and soft. I'm sure by now you're tired of hearing me say soup stew, but when you see how this is, it can really be either or, right? You can put a little bit more broth and have it more like a soup, or you can leave a little broth out and have it more like a stew. And that's how I like it. Here's how my bowl looked. I like to top mine with Parmesan cheese. I think it really adds a little bit something to it. So that's how I do mine. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much to Fallon for hosting this collab. I've been having so much fun doing it, meeting new people, and getting so many great new recipes. I can't wait to see everything everybody else puts out today. So that's going to do it for this one, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.